Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my FB Live. The reason why I started do this FB Live is twofold. One, I was getting a lot of questions, and I thought that this is going to be a good opportunity for me to at least interact with all of you. I may not have the answers to all your questions, but at least together we can reflect on each of these questions that you may have. And the second thing was that I wanted a medium where we could actually interact on a real-time basis. Because sometimes from other people's questions and from other people's reflections, some things resonate with us. Now, to begin with, I hope all of you are staying home and staying safe. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I would like to thank all the COVID-19 Corona warriors, our doctors, our paramedics, our nurses, the ambulance drivers, the police personnel, and also all the delivery boys and girls who have been providing us with essential services. Now, the way this goes is that I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes or so on subject, and I'll keep taking your questions. I can already see some of the comments that have started coming in. And we will stop this at 3:30. And if this goes well, we'll do it every Saturday at 3 p.m. Now, why did I choose to talk about anxiety? Because these were the questions that I was getting. All the questions were around this fear of COVID, all the questions were around the anxiety about the future. And I thought, let me talk a little bit about it. This anxiety is not merely a result of this pandemic. The world over, people are suffering because of this pandemic. But anxiety is also because of certain things which are perhaps deeply rooted inside us from the past. And therefore, we need to reflect upon this a little. Most of the fears that come in, irrespective of what stage of life that we are in, it's essentially because of the fear of loss of money. And that is because we equate money with everything that we like, our self-worth, our self-esteem, things that we can control, things that we can buy, a lifestyle, so on and so forth. And therefore, the first thing that I need to tell you all is I'm not trying to be condescending about money. By no means. I respect money. You need money to live your life. But please remember, money is merely an instrumentality. Money is what money does. It's nothing beyond that. And therefore, never be worried about how little money you have or about what you're going to do about the money in the future, because so long as you're chasing your dreams with passion, the money is going to come. When it came to anxiety, the kind of questions that I got were from two different categories of people. One were the students who were worried about the future jobs, who were worried about how the academics are going to go. And there was also this little fear about students who already have some offers. They're not too sure if those offers may be rescinded or not. And therefore, to all of you, please remember one thing. Whether COVID-19 pandemic had happened or not, the future was going to change any which way from what we had envisaged. Post fourth industrial revolution, there are certain skills which are going to become in demand, and there are certain skills which are going to be taken over by robotics and artificial intelligence, now whether we like it or not. And therefore, what I would recommend is that instead of worrying about the future, live in the here and the now. Don't carry baggages from the past because they're simply going to weigh you down either with hatred or with guilt. Don't worry too much about the future because it's very unpredictable. However, learn from the past and make sure that you're prepared in the here and now. And therefore, some of the skills that you should be preparing for during this lockdown period is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, negotiation, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, business analytics, and sense making along with it. So if you equip yourself with these skills, the future is going to be extremely safe. And please remember, this too shall pass. This is not the first pandemic that has happened, and this is not going to be the last. And therefore, what you need to do is show courage, but at the same time, make sure that you're using your time judiciously. The second category of people were the working people who are already working. And they were worried about the future of the industry, about the future of the economy, also, once again, about what to do, how to adjust with this entire concept of working from home. To all of you, once again, my suggestion is that live in the present. The industry will redeem itself. The economy will redeem itself. It's just a matter of time. Of course, there is going to be this particular period when all of us have to take some or the other kind of cut in some or the other kind of a way so far as our lifestyle is concerned. But should that deter us from dreaming? Should that deter us from using our imagination for the future? No, not at all. In this pandemic, there are also multiple opportunities. You may want to reflect on those things that you always wanted to do. You may want to reflect about that particular idea that you had, but you never put it into practice. You may want to reflect about those new skills which you wanted to learn, but so far you did not. And therefore, my suggestion to you would be focus on all that is in your hands. Please remember, in life, there are two categories of areas. One are the areas of concern. The other things can be categorized under the areas of influence. Now, anything that is happening because of COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown, etc., is an area of concern. There's not much that you can do about it. What you have to do is you have to manage it. You have to work around it, and you have to make sure that you make the most out of what is available to you. And the second is the area of influence. These are the things in your life which are in your hands. So, for example, learning a new language. For example, practicing that hobby that you'd always wanted to. For example, getting fitter while you're staying home. Now, all of these are your areas of influence. Stop worrying about the areas of concern. Just make sure that you have them at the back of your mind, and make sure that you focus on the areas of influence and do something about it. And to make sure that you do not get into that entire quagmire of spending too much time on the areas of concern, stop reading stuff on the social media about this pandemic. This pandemic is bad. There's no point in you reading those numbers over and over again. What you need to understand, as I said, is that this too shall pass. Instead of spending time on looking at where the graph is going, when is the peak going to happen, when is the peak likely to flatten, and reading about multiple experts who have sprouted like weeds in the past few months, in the past few days, in fact, what I would suggest is build the bonds with the people who you are with. Talk to the people that you haven't spoken for a while, have always wanted to speak. Renew your relationships. And that is the biggest and the best antidote for all the anxiety that you may have. Remember, there's no substitute for a good friend. There's no substitute for strong, healthy relationships. And there's no substitute for spending time on self-improvement. And self-improvement can happen by reading, by listening to music, by doing something new. Make sure that you're a better person tomorrow as compared to today. So I'm going to stop here since I'm done with my 10 minutes that I had. And I'm going to look at some of the questions which are in here. So far, I see that everyone is wishing me. I reciprocate your wishes. I hope you all are doing very, very well. And I hope you all are safe. Now, this is the time when I'm opening out for the questions. If you have any questions, please type them here. Yes, this is a temporary situation, Parul, and it shall pass soon. My best wishes to everyone who's been sending me their lovely wishes my way. I can see many of my ex-students over here. I can see many of my colleagues. I can see some of my ex-colleagues. I can see some of the usual people. And I'm so glad that there are so many of you who have joined me today. Any questions that you may have, please feel free to ask me. So how do you start your day? One of the things that I've spoken about, in fact, I wrote about it in an article when I was writing on working from home, is that make sure that you start your day with some kind of an exercise. Anything that works for you. For me, yoga works, and therefore I start my day with yoga. That's not the panacea for all of you. I mean, if you think that you would like to run, if you think that you would like to start by lifting some weights in the gym, or if you think you want to dance or you want to skip a rope or some such thing, please do so. When you start your day with the exercise, there are two things which happen. One is that you feel refreshed for the rest of the day. And the second is that it also brings in a lot of positivity inside you when you exercise. Therefore, always start your day with some or the other kind of an exercise. How can you use emotional intelligence? This is very interesting, Mubashir, because a lot of people do not understand the difference between emotional stability and emotional intelligence. Now, when we talk about emotional stability, which is one of the big five attributes of the personality, we are saying that people who are high on emotional stability are people who do not display any emotion, happiness, sadness, no expression on their face. Because when it comes to emotional intelligence, what it means is that these are the people, if you're high on emotional intelligence, you can actually display those emotions which are organizationally desirable, which means to actually display those emotions which are expected out of you. So please remember, there's something called the felt emotion, and there is something called the expressed emotion. And the difference between these two is the cognitive dissonance, because you might be feeling unhappy. What you're expected to do, lift the morale or the spirits of the other people, is to smile. And therefore, what you will face is this cognitive dissonance. The more capability that you have of getting over this cognitive dissonance, the more emotionally intelligent and be. And how do you achieve that? By practicing, by managing your emotions, and by making sure that you have your aim and your vision very, very clear. If you're playing a leadership role, it is your job to make sure that you inspire your people. And the only way that you can inspire your people is by making sure that you genuinely show that you care for them. That has to come not just from your words, because merely words are not enough, but by your body language as well as by your deeds. What about the IPM prospect? Okay, I guess that's not something which is concerned with anxiety. I could have taken that elsewhere, but IPM exam is going to happen sometime in late July. We are still waiting for the JEE to happen, and we are still waiting for the standard exams to happen. Once that happens, then we are going to fix up the date for the IPM admission test. Okay, so women are facing a lot of pressure, especially the working women. And I think partially it is our patriarchal society which is responsible for this, because it is expected that the woman will do the work at her workplace as well as work in the home. This is something where we need to be very, very sensitive. Household chores are not a woman's responsibility. They are the responsibility of everyone who's in the household. In fact, not just the adults in the household, but even the children should take up some responsibility. And I think this is the time when you should inculcate the right values in your family, be it a boy, be it a girl. And please remember, this gender discrimination when it comes to distribution of the household chores has to go. I understand that it may be a little difficult for some of you because you have not done it before. But there is never right time to actually start doing the right thing. And the right thing to do is share the burden. And so far as this work-life balance is concerned, I was speaking, in fact, I think 3 days back at a webinar. I know that my colleagues are not going to be happy about this, but I haven't been able to wrap my head around this entire work home balance, work life balance, for the simple reason that I am of the view that when you leave your workspace and you go home, you don't leave your workspace completely. You don't leave the work completely at your workspace. Likewise, when you go from your home to your office, you don't leave your home behind. Those thoughts are still there. And therefore, say that there is some way in which you can balance these two, to me, is a mirage. It's a mirage. You might think you've achieved it, you're probably doing something else. So what I'll suggest you do is be mindful. Practice mindfulness, which means be in the here and now. If you're working, make sure that you're giving everything to the work at hand. If you're at home and are engaging in certain domestic chores or talking to somebody, make sure that you're completely there. So, for example, if you're having a conversation with a human being, another human being, I don't know how many of you know this, but I took off my TV connection about 8 or 9 years back. And the only reason was that I realized that it was bringing in a lot of interruption in my life as such and not adding much value. Because if I wanted to catch the news, I can actually get it on Twitter or I read the newspaper. I still love reading the newspaper in the morning. And of course, I can check the news on the Twitter. And if I wanted a good TV show or a movie, I could actually watch it on the video. Therefore, the moment I took the TV connection away, what used to happen was whenever I would return home, I would switch on the TV and it would continue to play in the background, whether I actually watched it or not. And I realized that the moment I took the TV connection away, there was so much time that got unlocked for me to actually spend on other things. I could read more, I could listen to my music, the kind of music that I wanted to. And therefore, what I would say is be mindful. When you're with a human being, make sure that you've kept your phone away so that you are mindful. You're focusing on this particular conversation. If you're doing something, let's say you're running, once again, keep looking at your phone, stopping in between and looking at your phone. If you're taking, for example, when I take my pet baby out for a walk, he's right there listening to me, hopefully. Make sure that there is nothing on me because I don't want my time with him to be interrupted by something on the phone. And therefore, when you're at work, make sure that you're working without interruption and focusing on work, no matter how long it takes. Likewise, when you are with your family, when you are with people that you love, when you are with people and having a great conversation or just listening to music or watching a movie together, make sure that you're mindful and you're right there with them. Call for women. Sonia, I completely agree that we can't change the world in a day. But what I do believe in is that the more number of times you repeat a particular message, the more stronger the message becomes. So, for example, I mean, if you look at what the spiritual gurus, etc., and I'm not going to name any of them because some may be a little controversial, but most of them talk about things which are simple, which we all are expected to know any which way. The whole point is when you're told this often enough, then it has some kind of an impact. So therefore, when I'm talking about women empowerment today, when I'm talking about distribution of household chores, it's not that I'm saying it for the first time, or it's not that I'm the first person who's saying it, but I think this needs to come into the discourse, and more so in times of the lockdown, because this is where the real test lies. And therefore, I think a beginning has to be made. We have to bring this into our conversations, and we have to make sure it stays in our conversations till a change actually happens. Suniti, you are doing amazing by focusing on actually adding value to yourself by learning new skills, etc. And I strongly urge everyone else to also do the same. Try to see what are the ways in which you can add value to yourself. And by adding value, I don't really mean that you have to learn something new. Even if you talk to another person, a new person, you add value to yourself. Even if you read a new book, you add value to yourself. Even if you have a minute of reflection and introspection, add value to yourself because you understand yourself slightly better than you did before. Oh, Ranti, yes, but this is not a large collection. This is my small collection of books. The room that I'm here in, my actual collection of books is in my den. So I have about 5,000 odd books. All of them, of course, I have read multiple times, and I've read probably 10 times that number. And that's because I love reading. That's one of my passions apart from mountaineering and teaching. But if you want a book to start with, a serious reading with, I would strongly recommend a book called Siddharth by a German author called Hermann Hesse. Of course, the English translation is available. Why Siddharth? Because Siddharth is the story of this protagonist called Siddharth, who actually goes out trying to discover himself. Then he meets several people from whom he learns several lessons. And eventually, he figures out through introspection and reflection as to what the real purpose of his life was. I think most of us today are trying to figure out our purpose. I mean, gone are the days when people used to get motivated by money. Gone are the days when people used to get motivated by whatever kind of allurements or whatever kind of rewards, whether intrinsic or extrinsic, that they were getting. Where people want to feel useful. People want to figure out as to what is that larger purpose that they are serving. And therefore, figure out what your swadharma is, you need to actually understand yourself better. And books, to me, are one of the ways that actually help you in understanding better, because through the life and the time of the protagonist, you can actually find some areas of resonance. And who knows, it might start something inside you. It might just switch on something, and you may be able to understand yourself better simply by identifying with somebody else. So, Ranti, I would strongly recommend that you start with Siddharth. Yeah, Manish, I understand that many people probably have become a little paranoid about cleanliness, and I wouldn't say that if you are becoming overzealous about sanitation and about cleanliness, etc., it's necessarily paranoia. It becomes paranoia if you keep doing that repeatedly. If you're supposed to wash your hands as many times as you touch surfaces which have been touched by other people, so on and so forth. So you're doing the right thing, and I think this is going to become the new norm any which way. All of us have our idiosyncrasies. Some of us are more concerned about a clean, tidy room as compared to others, and there is nothing wrong about it. But if you think that you're becoming a little obsessive about it, if you think that you are obsessing about even very, very small things, what you need to once again do is see, there are two things you need to do. What Socrates says is habit plus insight. You need to first of all reflect upon where is this obsession coming from. And the second thing that you need to do is to make a habit. Sometimes making a habit also means breaking a habit. If you think you're incessantly trying to clean something, force yourself not to do it and time yourself. So, for example, say, okay, for the next 1 hour, I'm not going to go and start cleaning or tidying up things. And then you take it to 2 hours, you take it to 3 hours, you take it whatever time you think cleaning a particular thing is required. So, habit and insight. Also reflect on where is this paranoia coming from? Where is this obsession coming from? And you might be able to figure out some of the answers there. Yes, Palak, what is the right thing to do? Now, this is a big question by itself for the simple reason that there are multiple ethical theories which tell you the difference between right and wrong. So, for example, if you look at consequentialism, it'll say that the consequences of an action determine whether the action is right action or wrong. So, if the consequences are bad, it's a wrong action. If the consequences are good, it's a right action. And a form of consequentialism is utilitarianism, which say greatest good for greatest numbers is what constitute a right action. And on the other hand, if you look at the deontological theory of Immanuel Kant, and Immanuel Kant would say that it is the means which are important rather than the ends. If at all you are doing something with good intentions, then it is the right thing to do, irrespective of what the consequences. And then, of course, you have the Upanishadic theory. But to talk about the Upanishadic theory, I will need a whole lot of time. So, what I'll do is I'll park that question for another time. My suggestion to you, meanwhile, would be read up on all of these ethical theories, see which one resonates with you, and then follow a theory. The problem is not about following a particular theory. So, for example, I may prescribe a certain theory for myself. I don't want to turn normative and say that is the best theory and this is what all of you should follow. My suggestion is pick up whatever theory that you think resonates with you or you are convinced about, where you have the conviction, then make sure that you act consistently with this theory. The problem comes in when we perform a certain action and then look for a theory which is going to justify this action for us. And that is not done. Pick up something that you're totally convinced about and then make sure that you follow it. Okay, thank you very much, Sonia. When you say that you're inspired by things that I do, and I think one of the questions which has been asked is that how do I manage to get time to do all of these things? I seriously haven't been able to understand how do people not manage to have time for something that they want to do. So, me, if somebody says that I wanted to actually do this, but I can't find time, I don't think you're utilizing your time well. When I was giving the example of the television, I realized that I was putting my time, I was investing my time into something which was not important to me. And the moment you unlock these wasteful expenditures of your own resources, the biggest of which is time, for the simple reason that will never come back, you will realize that you have time for everything that you wish to do. So, for example, it doesn't matter whether I was working with Steel or whether I was working with XLRI or IIM Lucknow or SDF Bakoni or now with IIM Indore. Everyone knows that in May I'm going to disappear for 3 weeks to climb my Himalayas. And once people know, they tend to work things around it. So I still remember once one of my bosses asked me that, can you not go this May? And I said, no, I will go this May. But if you do wish to, you can find somebody else to do my job. I can help this person to actually do my job for those 3 weeks. And then he just laughed and said, I knew your answer already, but I thought might as well take a chance. So, and he said it happily. It wasn't that he was annoyed with me or something. So when people know that you're following your passion, most of them are not going to come into your way. And then you can always find time. For example, if you get up early, you will find time to read a book. While sleeping, you can probably listen to that music that you always wanted to listen to. Unlock time by actually not investing time into things that you really don't want to do. Yes, I'm so glad, Ruchi, that you're spending time with kids and focusing on yourself and developing hobbies and passion, which you never used to get time. Again, I was just talking about that. We do get time to do things, but the only point is we waste a lot of our time in doing things which we really don't care for much. if you start if you stop doing all of those things, you will find that there's a lot of time to do whatever it is that you really like. How to restart the industry? So, Sudhir, I've already given a white paper, especially for the MSMEs in Madhya Pradesh, as to how to restart. What I'll do is I'll share it with you. In fact, I will make it public after a day or two, because I'm just waiting for the Ministry of MSME to send me anything, comments on it, etc. So what we have done is we have looked Madhya Pradesh, of course, as an example, and we have looked at the different clusters of industries. We have looked at the different zones, which are the red, orange, and the green zones. And for each of the zones and the cluster combination, we have said this is how you should actually restart, and these are the kind of precautions that you need to make. The whole point is, if I have to give you a gist of all of this, is you have to start gradually, starting with about 50% of your employees, and then increase the number. Make sure that you have a protocol to follow. And what we have done is, on the day of joining, on day one, and for the next few days, we have given 3 different protocols. So this is a paper that has been a white paper that has been produced by IIM Indore, FICCI, and Apollo Hospitals, and I'll be happy to share it with you. Vikram, the most important change in the new normal post corona, people are talking about this new normal. I'm not too sure whether that nomenclature really, does it really mean new normal? But yeah, the normal would be that people would be far more open to ideas such as remote working. A lot of people said that work from home may become a norm. I don't think so. Work from home cannot become a norm, for the simple reason, for 2 reasons, in fact. One is a practical reason, a very pragmatic one, and the other is a philosophical one. The pragmatic reason is that there are many jobs which do not lend themselves to working from home. For example, if you have to go and talk to somebody, you need to physically go out there and talk to somebody. If you need to fight a war, for example, our soldiers will actually need to go there. And several examples. If you have to make a sale, You can do marketing probably from home, but if you have to make a sale, you might need to go to the field. And therefore, there are certain jobs which will not lead, which do not lend themselves to working from home. And the second one is more philosophical. What is home really? Home is a place that you love to come back to, at least most people love to come back to, and that is where you find your solace. That is where you find yourself with people that you love. And that is where you come back to with a feeling that nothing can go wrong in here. And here are people who are going to love me. And therefore, home has a very special place for you in a very philosophical sense of the word. Therefore, if that also becomes your workplace, there's bound to be some kind of a cognitive tension which will come in. Therefore, I've seen many people, even if they do not have an office. In fact, when I was in Mumbai for 2 years, when I was heading the India campus of Bakoni, I would see that many people would come to places like Cafe Coffee Day or Starbucks, etc., and work from there. Though they could have jolly well worked from their home simply because they thought that home was a completely different place and they wanted to keep the sanctity of home. And therefore, there is a philosophical problem that comes in if you convert your home also into your workplace. Of course, some people go around it by having a designated place and designated time within their home and convert it into an office space. You may want to do that, but I don't think it is going to become a new normal. What is really going to change is that people are probably going to have a healthier lifestyle. Healthcare will become extremely important for people, and we may change some of our regular behaviors in terms of hygiene, etc. It's 2 minutes past the time that we decided that we would end. I'm so glad that all of you decided to join in, and I'm amazed by the kind of an interaction that we have had. And this gives me a fillip, and this encourages me to possibly do this more often. So, what we are going to do is, I am going to try and be regular on Saturdays at 3 p.m. with a particular topic which I believe is pertinent for discussion. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining in. Please stay home and please stay safe. All the best. God bless you.